We say good morning to Mark Ein, part of the Washington Commanders ownership group. He's here to give us all the skinny and details on the 2025 Mubadala City DC Open. It's not that far away, July 19th through the 27th, just 64 days away. Mark, thanks for coming on and joining us. We appreciate the time. How are you?
I'm doing great. It's great to be with you guys this morning.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, so we got the
some big names coming to town.
We got the press that 7 of the world's top 10 players are coming to Washington, D.C. this summer for the 2025 Mubadala City DC Open. This is an event clearly near and dear to your heart. You've been involved with it for several years. Talk about the 2025 edition that's not that far off.
Yeah, it's only a couple months away. Yeah, so we just announced the initial set of players who've committed, and as you said, it's 7 of the top 10 players in the world, 4 of the top 10 women, and 3 of the top 10 men, plus all of our fan favorites. So on the men's side, we have Taylor Fritz, who's 4 in the world, Alex de Benar, and Lorenzo Musetti, who's an amazing player people love, and then Tommy Paul, who's 12 in the world, our local guy, Francis Tiafo, Nick Kyrgios is back, Kei Nishikori's back. So great start to a men's field. On the women's side, number 3, Jessica Pegula, whose dad happens to own the Buffalo Bills.
Yep.
Madison Keys, who won the Australian Open, Emma Navarro, and then Paula Badosa, who won our tournament last year. So it's a great start, and this is just the start. We'll have a bunch more to announce, but these are the initial commitments we have.
Mark, when did it start for you, your passion for tennis? We knew you grew up with Josh Harris and, he was a wrestler. Was tennis your number one sport as a kid? What did you play as a kid?
I was at, I think, 10 years old. I was a ball kid at this tournament.
Mm-hmm.
Josh and I actually grew up in Chevy Chase. My house was 10 minutes from the facility, and the highlight of every summer of my life was going and working at this tournament as a ball kid. Jimmy Connors, Eddie Dibbs, Guillermo Vilas, and we were on the court with them. We thought everyone was watching us instead of the players, but it just got my passion, and that's the sport I played. I was captain of the team at BCC, and it's kind of like the thing. It was my sport. I mean, as a fan, the 2 things I cared about the most as a kid were this tennis tournament and the football team. So it's been a great journey.
Mark, did Josh Harris ever try to get you over to the dark side of wrestling? Like when I was in high school, I saw the wrestlers. They would come into the cafeteria. They were wearing like the hefty bags, and they had bags under their eyes, and they're sweating. I was like, that doesn't look like a lot of fun. I understand it's a great pursuit. You have to be disciplined to do it, but I was a tennis guy like you, not as accomplished as you, but tennis to me much more attractive than wrestling.
There is actually at some point, maybe not this morning, there's a funny story. He did try once in front of a bunch of people in an elementary school. So
right.
It was short lived, but there was that one try.
Yeah. So with this tennis tournament, how do you get the fans involved? You're really passionate. I think one of your greatest strengths is getting fans involved. Years ago you did it at GW. Yeah. I brought my kids out. I still have 2 little rackets where you had fans playing with the players kind of beforehand.
Yeah. Yeah. That World Team Tennis, we did that first down at City Center, then down at the Wharf before the Wharf was built. And then we went to GW and then the roof of Union Markets. That was pretty cool. When you only have one court, you can do them in these really cool places. But then this tournament really was my passion. We took it over in 2019. And, I would always go and say, this is a really big tennis event, but the fan experience honestly was really poor. There was nowhere indoor or air conditioned to go. If you weren't a VIP, the food was really bad. And the beautiful thing about tennis is it's a great experience. You're not just there for 2 hours. You'll come for 6 or 7 hours, and you'll come every day or a lot of the days. And so we completely transformed the entire experience, starting with building a bunch of beautiful indoor places for people to go, a tequila bar, bar and grill, and with like amazing food. So we had 4 Michelin star chefs last year, if you want super high-end food, but then like the best of DC burger and pizza and seafood and ice cream. And so it's like, I sometimes say it's now a tennis event and a food and wine festival. but it's like people come and it's the best way to spend a day. Interestingly, we've sold every ticket for the last 4.5 years, and the opening weekend, which is qualifying, where you see the people trying to get in the tournament, but you can see the best players out on the practice court, is usually something in tournaments that they like doesn't sell out. They give a lot of tickets away. For us, that's actually one of the first 2 days to sell out, because it's the first days. People are so excited to be back. Prices are a little cheaper, and people are just soaking in the experience. It's all about soaking in the experience. And it's been, we have an amazing tennis community with a long history here at this tournament, and the fans have responded unbelievably well.
Talking to Mark Guine, part of the Commanders ownership, of course, and he's promoting the 2025 Mubadala City DC Open. When it comes to the players, and you just mentioned all the big name players, okay, and there's a lot of big names, especially on the men's side. Is it easy to convince these guys to come? It's the middle of July, end of July, could be hot as hell in DC. It's a month before the U.S. Open, so I understand that they're kind of prepping for those. It's a couple weeks before the Cincinnati Open, which is a big one too. But is it hard to convince some of these big names to come?
It's such a good question. Before we got involved, they really used to pay, like they would pay a couple stars a ton of money to come. That was how they got people. I talked about all the investment we've made in the fan experience. We made a similar huge investment in the player experience, into their facilities, the food they eat, the gym, the 2 gyms they have on site, and then putting them up in a first-class hotel. All the players I just mentioned, they all reached out to us and said they want to come. And so that has also been transformed, and it really is a stop that people love. First of all, they love coming to DC. One of the really interesting things is the European players, especially, who've never been to DC, all fall in love with our city. And so they love being there. They love the experience. And it's a big part of what that we've tried to do, is not just make it great for fans, but make it great for the players as well.
All right. Speaking of the fan experience, I'm going to shift over to the Commanders. All right.
Yeah.
We've seen some of these drawings, and I know it's not passed yet by the city council, but exciting news. Congratulations on what's happening with the stadium and RFK. Can you tell us like what you're shooting for, your goals for the fans experience? You know, we took a bunch of calls when the news broke about tailgating, and some people are worried about the future of tailgating and what it's going to be like. Can you kind of fill us in on the future?
Yeah, I mean, I think you guys have seen what the team's put out, and making this an extraordinary fan experience, just like we've been talking about at the tennis, but one of the best fan experiences in football is one of the top priorities. Thinking about it from the pre-game to the post-game and the entire experience. Again, interestingly, talking about tennis, about how you turn it into an incredible full day experience that you're excited about from beginning to end, is sort of the mission. And, look, there's a lot of considerations and trade-offs you have to make, because also this has to be a thriving community every day of the year. I mean, that's really something that we feel passionate about, and obviously the city does too. And I think in the end, it's going to be one of the great sporting experiences going to that site when it's finally built.
So, Mark, at this point, are you more worried or confident about the DC Council having enough yes votes to approve that stadium build at the RFK site?
Honestly, I think that the merits of this are incredibly compelling. I think everyone's heard all the reasons that this makes so much sense. I think 2 things that I think maybe don't get quite as much attention. One is just that, the mayor, as part of this, insisted that we put a dome on it. And that was an interesting, thing in our mind, but that was a requirement. And because of that, we're going to be able to get the biggest events in the world. And I was co-chair of the bid to bring the 2026 World Cup to DC as a city. And basically, after we went through the process, they said, you can't do it at our current football stadium. It was before we were involved and before we had put some money into it. But they said, if you're going to bid for DC, you need to play in you have to bid with the stadium in Baltimore. And we ended up not getting the World Cup, which, by the way, comes with 3 teams staying here, all their fans, all the stuff. A massive missed opportunity. When we first got involved in the team, I was like, we gotta find a way to get Taylor Swift here. That'll make it. And she just wouldn't come to the current stadium. And you can go on and on and on. There's a Club World Cup this summer that's going on. There's just so many events. You heard Roger allude, no promises to a Super Bowl, but you did see the draft, which will be 1 million people. The catalyst for tourism at a time when the DC economy needs it most is this will be as big a catalyst as I can't imagine anything bigger. And so I think when people study all of it, they'll realize that the benefits of this are really, really significant and something that should happen.
Yeah, because we've all seen the way that Navy Yard, I mean, we're broadcasting a few blocks away from that, the Wharf,
Right.
Other spots. So you feel like this RFK site's just going to go above and beyond even what's happened down here near Nationals Park.
Such a great point. I mean, I remember I actually owned the land under the DC United Stadium before it became the stadium. And I mean, I used to go down there. It was a salvage yard and an abandoned, and it wasn't abandoned. It was an old warehouse. And that's what everything was like. And now you go down there and it's the most, heavily populated new residential area in the city. And then you mentioned the wharf, and absolutely that's modeled. And this has the potential to be, I think the size is 4 wharfs. You just think about over a long period of time what this can be, both for the residents as a community, but then again, as a magnet for tourism. And if you think about it, this really is an intentional strategy for the mayor as the DC economy is shifting, as federal government may get a little bit smaller, and there's a multiplier effect. Lean into what your strength is. And tourism, DC is one of the most popular tourist destinations in America. So create things that create more tourism, more dollars coming from out of town, more jobs for people. And a stadium like this is going to be an extraordinary catalyst for all that economic activity.
Talking to Mark Ines, bringing the Mubadala City DC Open back to DC with 7 of the top 10 players in the world playing tennis here in DC. Mark, the last time I actually saw you in person was my buddy was huge into Overwatch. And this was right before COVID. And you had an event, you were talking about the Wharf at the Anthem, and I couldn't believe how packed and lively it was for Overwatch. Do you still have that team?
Yeah, no, that was a COVID. I mean, that was a big league. By the way, Bob Kraft owned the New England team, Brian Roberts owned the Philly team, and on and on and on. The Wilfs were involved. There was a lot of crossover with major sports, and you saw it was like you'd stepped into a science fiction movie with 5,000 screaming people watching 19-year-old kids play video games on a big screen. But it never kind of made it back through COVID.
Gotcha.
So the league kind of went away, but that was a great experience. And I learned a lot. I learned a lot about that generation of fan actually, and what matters to them. In fact, the guy who runs that now works on our tennis, has been really helpful in connecting us to that generation for our tennis tournament.
Mark, just kind of getting back to the stadium issue, I think it's going to happen too. I know there's only a few votes away, and I'm sure you're probably very confident that it will go through and it'll end up being there. But if it doesn't, let's just say it doesn't happen, and maybe it's a very small percentage chance that it doesn't happen. What's Plan B?
Let's just stick to Plan A.
Okay, all right.
Look, I don't want to people have said we really did have a lot of options here, and a number of good options. This was the one that we were all from the beginning the most excited about, and we really do think it makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
If for some reason it didn't happen, there's obviously, you always have backup and contingencies, but we're really focused on Plan A.
Okay.
Hey, by the way, how much fun was it for you, the playoff run? I loved seeing, the owners out at the bars with the fans, and then even after the loss, you guys, shaking the hands of every player. How much fun was that ride at the end of the season? The 5-game winning streak at the end of the regular season, and obviously the playoff run.
Yeah, obviously on a personal level, it's unbelievable. And we talked about the fact that, I was that little kid. I went with my dad. We got tickets, finally, season tickets that we bought from someone, section 320, row 5, seats 19 and 20 in the end zone. at RFK, and so I lived this as a kid, and it meant so much. And then to be part of it again, but actually even more meaningful, and I really mean this, is just as I go around town, how happy it's made so many people, and how much excitement is back. And it's like there's so many people who care so deeply about this team, who have forever, who were really distraught, unhappy, disappointed for so many years that they didn't have a team they could be proud of, that, did well. And now just to see our whole community lit up again about this team, that's the best feeling in the world.
Mark, we really appreciate the time. People should go to MubadalaCityDCOpen.com for all the event information. It's July 19th through the 27th. All of your ticket information is there.
Yeah.
Go out and support a great tennis event here in DC. 7 of the world's top 10 players are going to be in DC. And as Mark mentioned, more to come in the next few months.
Thanks, guys. Hey, can I get you guys got to come out and see it. And then
I'd love to. We'd love to, definitely.
Yeah, seriously, you got to. And one of the things I'd just say is, like, the other thing is when people who haven't been to pro tennis, especially even in just recent years, as close as you get at our tournament, they are blown away by how athletic the players are, how fast it is, like what they do with the ball. It's really, I love to see people who haven't been in a long time, or maybe has never been, experience tennis up this close. So hopefully you guys will come, and then we'll get a chance to talk about it after.
Definitely. Thank you for the invite.
Thank you, Mark.
Thanks for the time, Mark. We really appreciate it.
Appreciate you guys. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, that was Mark Ein. He's part of the Commanders ownership group, and of course, one of the driving forces behind the Mubadala City DC Open.
I'm guessing EB doesn't have a lot in common with Mark Ein.
Okay.
Mark Ein went to the Wharton School of Business,
right?
Harvard degree, worth millions upon millions of dollars.
It's a pretty good resume.
Part owner of the Commanders.
Yeah.
But both ball boys at the same tennis tournament back in the day.
That is true.
Hey, we should see if we can get like Drab or myself or Mar to be a ball boy.
Oh, it's a lock. We should do that. Mike Mar would fit right in.
That would be so sick.
That'd be great.
Be a ball boy for like the Kyrgios match and have him yell at you.
That'd be fantastic. Throw a tennis ball right in your Bozak. That'd be fantastic. All right, coming up next, I believe we're going to get a live update from One Drab T-shirt, who is undergoing the first part of his hair restoration as we speak. We'll get a live update from him next.